I'm Dave. I'm a member of the Sacramento Amiga Computer Club, and this is my spider. One of my, it's actually a hexapod, 6 legs. It's called Forest. I have a whole bunch of them, but they come from a kit from a company called Freenove, F-R-E-E-N-O-V-E, and in this kit they give you everything you need except you got to add a Raspberry Pi and some batteries. But what I've done is in the kit, when you get it, you can run the Hexapod from a laptop, and it will do basic walking, head movement commands, but nothing really special. So I've used Lightwave to create some motions that I've imported into the Hexapod using Python language, writing a little routine for the language to do that. So it will do some, and I've created a master script, which means I've linked a bunch of little animations to keys on just a portable keypad. So you see here, there's some directions where you can tell the Hexapod how to walk, and then some little motions, little sequences he can do. Now, the way I make those sequences, as I said, is I make an animation in Lightwave, and I convert it over with Python software. But now I've created something called I'm calling a pose editor that will allow me to go back into those animations and tweak them. And this is exciting because I can get more of an interactive feel to making the animations, make the Hexapod look more lifelike. Spiders, which came from a kit which I built, and I added a bunch of things to it to make it do what it wasn't really designed necessarily to do. I mean, when you get the kit, it'll walk and it'll do some simple motions. But what I did is I used Lightwave to create animations. And so, for instance, here's a simple animation of it going up on its legs here. So if I come down to this guy, and he's turned on now, good, okay. And if I do this, there he goes. Okay, so that way I was able to get a bunch of different animations for him to do. I'll settle him down here. He does his normal walking forward and backward that came with the kit. He does a little yes and no on the head. Different things like little conversations that were real easy to do in Lightwave because I just made keyframes, and I wrote a Python file to transfer them to the robot. Now, one of the problems, though, I ran into, was that the Lightwave animations look different from what he actually did. And a lot of times the limbs were not really aligned correctly, which wasn't a big deal normally, but I have one that I try to lift a barbell, and the 2 legs don't line up, so you can't lift the barbell. So one of the ideas I had was that because these little servo motors, the little they're called horns that they're connected to, only have 24 teeth, it's going to be off. You know, each one is going to be a little bit off from what Lightwave says that the angle is supposed to be. It's going to be a little different angle. So I tried this idea of making offset files where I would calibrate these things. I'd spread the legs out, and I'd say, okay, this is what the spider thinks it should be flat. What does Lightwave think it should be flat? I'm going to calculate these little offsets and put it in. Well, that didn't really work very well either. And so I'm wondering, well, maybe the problem isn't just these gears. Maybe it's the problems of physics and other things creeping in. So what I decided, it'd be a lot simpler to make what I call a pose editor, when I'm actually just looking at the Hexapod and I'm trying to make it do what I want it to do rather than what Lightwave, thinks it should be doing. So I'm going to jump out of this, and I'm going to jump into this thing here, which is, okay, there we go. Well, hopefully it's up here. This one doesn't have an icon, so I'm going to open this up in a programmer here. I use Genie's programming editor so you get to see some of the code here. Okay, so that's going to hold off for right now, and let me open this one here. Where are we? Okay. Okay, so this is a set I'm going to run. This is just a set of 5 poses. Okay, and you'll notice it looks like a zero, kind of a zero there. I wanted something in the display to show me what pose I was on, but the text is so small on that screen that I just took a bunch of block letters and sort of printed them. So that's the first pose, or pose 0. Here's pose 1. Here's pose 2, pose 3, and pose 4. Okay, no, back to 0. Now, any of these poses, I can start to make adjustments. I can move this leg over, say. I can move this leg down, move him up, so he'd move this other one up, maybe move the foot up a little bit here. like that. Okay, now that becomes a new pose. When we go back to it, that pose is there. And I can resave these. So now I have a way of taking the light wave animations and adjusting those things on the fly so that I can see, you know, what they actually do in the real world. Now, I've also made this, you see that he jumps from pose to pose. These are not really animations because all the servos are going as fast as they possibly can. So if I use these keys, it will show that I'm actually moving slower and I'm filling in the individual frames. And so that's going to be the next challenge, is to take these animations that I've done previously with Lightwave and have the thing move slowly and save that data. So now another thing that I have discovered here is that, and here I will go back because I've got an icon for this. And I'm finding all sorts of things about Raspberry Pi and Python and how it has problems with permissions on some things and other things it doesn't have the right libraries. And so it's been an interesting learning experience. Okay, so this is a set of poses that are just 7 blank poses. So, and I'll go through here and you'll see how the numbers change, but he doesn't really do anything. Let me go back to the first pose here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is something different. Rather than adjusting just one leg, I'm going to adjust a bunch of them together. And see how he turns here, like this? Let me go back here. Okay, and let me go back on this one because I didn't want to do that yet. Okay, so now I'm going to adjust a bunch of them together where he lifts. And now I'm going to adjust a bunch of them where they turn. And I'm faking IK here, sort of, because the legs are sort of staying on the ground, but really all I'm doing is at the same time as, you know, I'm rotating all the hips together, lifting all the legs together. This would be a good starting point for using this alone as an editor without even having to use Lightwave. So, so that's kind of the next step. So let me see if I can, I'll go to the next pose here. Okay, let me see if I can do something here. Okay, so now I'm going to lift the feet. Now, one thing I had to be careful of too, physics worked against me. When I started to do these lifts, I noticed that the feet were curling under, and when I wanted to go back, he couldn't go back because the servos didn't have enough strength. So some of these things have to be done sort of in a certain sequence in order to, you know, kind of get around the problem of physics. Let me do this. So now when I bring the legs, excuse me, when I bring the legs down here. Okay, so now he comes up nicely like in the other pros. Okay, so, all right. Okay, and there's another. Okay, so let me show you the final, what's going to be the final evolution of this. And before I do that, I'm going to pull something up that I'm already running. I'm running an emulator, an Amiga emulator. Okay, this was a very old program that I made 1 million years ago in 1991 that I called Puppet. And if I can get the mouse pointer, good. Oh, I got to get the Amiga mouse pointer. Where's the Amiga mouse pointer? Oh, well, the mouse pointer is not working right now. No, okay. Well, anyway, if the mouse pointer were working, I have a little slider down here that, in a simple figure that records frames. But the key thing about this was that I'd be able to hold down okay, there we go. I'll at least show you this part. I can hold down a key that represents a couple segments at the same time, and I can move the mouse. So it becomes very quick to move the limbs. And I love Lightwave, but one of the things about it is it's not as intuitive as I'd like it to be. I'd like to have almost a glove when I'm using this thing to make something perform. So the next step then on this guy, and it's still pretty new, I'll run this little thing I call mouse test here. Okay. So what happens here is, and I've just got this set up for these things. Okay, if I can remember how I did this now. Okay, here we go. Yeah, all right. Cool. So, okay, so now you see, if I can get, okay. So now you see I'm using a mouse to move 2 servos at once, and I'm holding the mouse button down to do the third one. And I'd love to have a way to do all three at once, but you know, that's it. So anyway, the bottom line is I want to be able to make these poses as fast as possible. There's an old book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards, which talks about, and an animator that I read, Seamus Calhane, applied that to animation. And the idea is that you do things as fast as you can because it keeps you in the intuitive, you know, you're intuitive, the right side of the brain. And so when I make motions for these spiders, and ultimately I want to make things that are fairly subtle, I want to be, I don't want anything to come between me and the technology. I want to be, and so anyway, I'm working toward that end. Okay. Say again? Oh, the spiders are called Freenove, is the company, F-R-E-E-N-O-V-E. And the company's been very nice in that they've provided me with a data file so that I could bring it into Lightwave. And they provide a lot of code too. And the whole, really, this whole thing that I've been working on is based on one command called set servo angle. And once I knew what that command was, and I knew what the data was coming out of Lightwave, it was relatively straightforward to write conversion. And the same thing with these other little programs. I'm writing data files that look like, basically they all use the set servo angle command. So that's as far as it's gone so far.
Like a guru to step on your vibe.
So anyway, that's
very neat.
So hopefully one of these days I'll have some really neat animations to show that's
This is
yeah. Thank you.
Good.